glitter and gold,
a gown that's sparkling,
stories untold.
one slipper lost, a midnight flight. I never thought I'd dance tonight.
Alexander, you don't yet see the clever chaotic.
The morning sun streams weakly through the dusty windows of the grand yet cluttered manor. Cinderella hums softly, her voice carrying a gentle melody as she scrubs the kitchen floor. A basket of laundry teeters precariously on her hip. Outside, birds chirp, and a breeze carries the faint scent of blooming lilacs from the garden. Her stepsisters, Victoria and Clarissa, strut into the room, arms draped with silk scarves and sequined slippers. Victoria flutters her fan dramatically. Cinderella, must you always sing while working? Do you think the floors will shine themselves? Cinderella doesn't miss a beat. Wiping her hands on her apron, she replies with a playful grin. Not unless your charm sprinkles itself onto the tiles, of course. The sisters gasp in exaggerated horror. Oh, such sarcasm! Such insolence, they cry, flouncing away with the delicate air of someone performing in a play they've written for themselves. As Cinderella scrubs and tidies, she steals a glance at the small attic window. Beyond it lies the bustling town, the lively market stalls, and the laughter of children playing in the streets. She imagines herself there, free from chores, dancing through the marketplace, or strolling along the river, meeting someone who truly sees her for who she is. Despite her hard life, her wit and charms remain intact. In the garden, the townsfolk smile at her passing. Old Mrs. Hemsley tips her hat and calls, "Good morning, Cinderella. The bread's just arrived. Do take one before your busy day begins." Cinderella curtsies with a warm smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Hemsley. I'll be sure to share with your cat Whiskers. He deserves a treat, too." Even the household animals sense her kindness. The family dog nudges her hand for a scratch, and the mice peek from behind a vase, observing her movements with admiration. Pip, her cheeky little mouse friend, scurries across the counter, tipping an imaginary hat. "See, even we know you're the cleverest in the house," he squeaks. Cinderella chuckles, shaking her head. As the day progresses, her stepsisters quarrel over trivial matters. Whose hat matches which glove, whose ribbon is more fashionable, and whose reflection in the mirror is more deserving of admiration. Cinderella listens patiently, sometimes offering sly remarks that make even her stepsisters momentarily pause, though they never truly appreciate her humor. Later, she finds a quiet corner by the hearth. With a worn sketchbook in hand, she doodles designs for dresses she dreams of making, imagining herself in beautiful gowns of her own creation, not ones forced upon her by fashion-obsessed stepsisters. Her eyes sparkle with hope, a secret fire burning inside her heart. Adventure, love, and freedom feel just within reach, though she must hide them for now. Even in a life filled with endless chores and comic absurdities, Cinderella's hidden talents, her cleverness, her artistic eye, and her warm, magnetic personality shine through. She is the unnoticed jewel of the household, quietly adored by those who truly see her. The townspeople, the animals, and, unbeknownst to her, the fate that has begun to stir in the palace, ready to notice her too. The morning air is filled with excitement and gossip. Word spreads quickly through the town. A royal ball will be held at the palace. Prince Alexander, known not only for his princely duties, but also for his clever wit and infectious laughter, is searching for a bride. The town buzzes with speculation and even the birds seem to twitter with curiosity. Inside the manor, Victoria and Clarissa shriek with delight when the palace messenger arrives. They grab the parchment, clutching it to their chests as if it were a crown itself. A royal ball! Can you imagine? Victoria squeals, spinning in a circle and nearly toppling a vase. I simply must outshine every woman in the kingdom. Clarissa gasps. And I shall. Alexander won't know what hit him. Cinderella, meanwhile, is in the midst of a mountain of laundry, balancing baskets, scrubbing the floors, and trying to keep the cat from spilling the flour. She looks up at the chaos and mutters under her breath, "And I suppose I'm supposed to cheer while you plot to steal a prince's attention." Pip, her spirited little mouse friend, scuttles across her shoulder, his tiny voice full of excitement. "Cinderella, this is your chance. You don't need to steal anyone's attention. You just need a moment of freedom. Even if it's just a few hours of dancing and laughter, you deserve it." Cinderella sighs, her mind torn between duty and desire. "Oh, Pip, I'd love to go, but I have a mountain of chores, and I don't exactly have a gown that won't collapse if I so much as breathe." She glances longingly at the old fabrics stacked neatly in the corner. Her secret designs and sketches, which she has perfected in stolen moments when the stepsisters aren't looking. The stepsisters, oblivious to her struggles, continue their preparations. They measure, fluff, and fuss, treating Cinderella like an invisible stagehand rather than a sister. Victoria accidentally steps on her own ribbon and yells, "Cinderella, fetch me my other slipper at once." Clarissa, meanwhile, is tangled in a cascade of pearls and sighs dramatically, "And hurry! Alexander could arrive any minute, and I simply cannot be late." Cinderella rolls her eyes, but can't help smiling at their absurdity. If only their wit matched their vanity, she mutters to herself, wrangling a tangle of silk and thread. Pip giggles. "Don't worry, Cinderella. One way or another, you'll get your chance to shine. And who knows, maybe the prince will be more interested in your clever mind than a glittery shoe." As the day wears on, the manor becomes a whirlwind of preparation. Cinderella works tirelessly, her stepsisters' frantic antics providing endless comic relief. Yet, in the quiet corners of the house, she begins to daydream. Swirling through the palace ballroom, the lights twinkling like stars, laughter echoing in every corner, and perhaps Prince Alexander noticing her not for her appearance, but for her wit, charm, and hidden heart. Even in the chaos, hope and anticipation take root. Cinderella realizes that attending the ball, no matter how briefly, is about more than romance. It is a taste of the life she longs for: adventure, laughter, and the freedom to be herself. As dusk settles over the manor, Cinderella slumps by the hearth, exhausted from chores, but still secretly dreaming of the ball. A sudden twinkle fills the room, and with a dramatic puff of glittering smoke, her fairy godmother appears. "Cinderella, my dear, tonight you shall attend the ball and capture the heart of Prince Alexander," she announces, waving her wand with flourish. Pip squeaks in excitement, darting around her feet. "Wait, are you sure about tonight?" Cinderella asks cautiously. "My chores aren't finished, and last time your magic was a little unpredictable." The fairy godmother waves her wand again. "Nonsense. Magic is always reliable. Mostly, and with that, chaos begins." The pumpkin intended to transform into a golden carriage shudders violently and nearly explodes with a loud pop. Cinderella jumps back, clutching her apron. Maybe mostly isn't enough, she exclaims, dodging a shower of pumpkin seeds. Pip scurries for cover behind a teacup. Next, the glass slippers appear, but with a comical twist. They slide across the polished floor like miniature ice skates. Cinderella chases one slipper, nearly tripping over a startled cat, before finally corralling it with a triumphant laugh. "Gotcha, you slippery little devil," she quips. Then comes the gown. Threads unravel, seams threaten to split, and the sparkling fabric begins to sag like a deflating balloon. With quick thinking, Cinderella tucks, pins, and folds the dress, muttering clever repartees to herself. Who knew magic could be such a drama queen? Eventually, the gown holds together, though slightly askew, but it accentuates her natural grace rather than diminishing it. The clock ticks ever closer to the hour, and despite the mishaps, Cinderella takes a deep breath. She adjusts her hair, smooths her gown, and lifts her chin with determination. Pip gives her a small cheer from atop the mantel. "I suppose perfection is overrated," Cinderella murmurs with a wry smile. Let's see if Alexander appreciates chaos and cleverness over polish and pretense. With a final flick of the Fairy Godmother's wand, Cinderella is transported to the palace steps. The carriage, slightly lopsided but dazzling nonetheless, awaits. She steps out, radiant and confident, though slightly frazzled from the magical chaos, a few stray sparkles clinging to her hair. As she ascends the grand staircase to the ballroom, heads turn. Courtiers murmur and the Stepsisters gasp, flustered by her unexpected beauty and poise. Cinderella's charm, humor, and resilience shine through. She may have endured magical mishaps, but she has emerged triumphant, clever, witty, and ready to face the ball with a hidden sparkle in her heart. The ballroom is a glittering sea of gowns, tails, and sparkling chandeliers. Music swells as couples twirl gracefully across the polished floor. Cinderella steps in, her gown catching the light with every move. She glances around nervously, aware of the aristocrats' polished movements and the sharp gazes of the courtiers. But determination gleams in her eyes. Prince Alexander, handsome and witty, scans the crowd with mild amusement, clearly less impressed by grandeur and more curious about the stories hidden behind these stiff smiles. When his gaze lands on Cinderella, he is immediately intrigued. Her posture isn't perfect. Her gown has a small crease, and yet there is an unmistakable warmth and sparkle in her eyes. He approaches, bowing with exaggerated flair. "May I have this dance?" he asks, a teasing smile tugging at his lips. Cinderella curtsies. "Of course, Your Highness. Though I must warn you, my dancing might be unconventional." "Unconventional is precisely what I enjoy," Alexander replies with a wink. The first steps are disastrous. Alexander misjudges the rhythm, stepping squarely on Cinderella's toes. She yelps, hopping on one foot, and nearly topples. Laughter bubbles from both of them, breaking the tension. A chandelier above quivers dangerously, prompting them to dart sideways in synchronized panic. "Perhaps we should invent a new dance," Alexander jokes, catching her just before she collides with a waiter carrying a tray of champagne. Cinderella laughs, her eyes sparkling. "I call it the avoid the chandelier shuffle. Step lightly, spin occasionally, and pray." Their awkwardness becomes charm, drawing the attention of other guests. Not that anyone else matters. With each misstep, they adapt, creating a rhythm that's uniquely theirs. Laughter, gentle teasing, and playful dodges. Alexander is captivated. He hasn't laughed this freely in years, and he admires how Cinderella meets each mishap with wit rather than despair. Meanwhile, the stepsisters hover nearby, their forced elegance glaringly obvious. Victoria attempts a pirouette that ends with her skirt tangled around her feet, while Clarissa trips over her own slipper. They cast glances toward Cinderella with growing frustration. She is effortlessly stealing the limelight, not through perfection, but through authenticity and charm. The dance continues, fraught with comic stumbles and spontaneous giggles. Cinderella's clever footwork and quick thinking save both of them from repeated disasters. She tugs Alexander away from a toppled candelabra, spins him around a clumsy courtier, and even improvises a graceful bow to avoid an oncoming harpist. By the end of the dance, the ballroom whispers of the mysterious, radiant young woman who has stolen the prince's attention, not through showy displays, but through humor, warmth, and a sparkling personality that shines brighter than any gown or jewel. As the music ends, Alexander bows deeply. I must confess, I've never danced like that before, nor laughed so much. Cinderella curtsies, cheeks flushed with excitement. Nor have I, but I dare say it's far more fun than I imagined. The spark between them is undeniable. A connection built not on appearances or etiquette, but on laughter, courage, and authenticity. A bond that promises adventure, mischief, and perhaps love. The ballroom fades behind them as Cinderella and Prince Alexander slip out into the palace gardens. Moonlight dances on the fountain, and soft breezes rustle the rose bushes. The air smells of night-blooming jasmine, and the distant murmur of the remaining guests adds a gentle backdrop to their private moment. Alexander leans casually against the fountain, eyes sparkling with curiosity. So, tell me, mysterious lady, he begins with a playful grin. How does someone survive an entire ballroom without a single grace note falling apart? Cinderella laughs softly, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. I've had a lifetime of practice dodging disasters, Your Highness. Between household chores and a pair of particularly dramatic stepsisters, a girl learns to improvise. He arches an eyebrow, amused. So that explains your incredible agility. He gestures vaguely to the ballroom fiasco. Agility or sheer panic, depends who you ask, she quips, her eyes twinkling. But perhaps there's more to me than dodging furniture and pratfalls. I've always dreamed of a life where I could make my own choices, follow my curiosity, maybe even create something beautiful. I never imagined I'd get the chance to laugh this much less with a prince. Alexander studies her, intrigued. You're more than clever and charming. You're insightful. Most people hide behind manners and masks, but you're real. His voice softens, a flicker of vulnerability breaking through his practiced wit. Cinderella blushes lightly, but she meets his gaze steadily. And you're not what I expected either. Everyone talks about your wit and duties, but you actually listen. You notice things. That's rare for a prince. A playful breeze lifts the hem of her gown, and Alexander steps closer to steady her. Their hands brush, causing an electric spark neither expected. Both pause, the moment suspended between laughter and longing. They begin to stroll along the moonlit paths, sharing stories of childhood dreams, misadventures, and small secrets. Cinderella tells him about her sketches and the dresses she's secretly designed. while Alexander recounts moments when royal life felt unbearably rigid and how he secretly longs for freedom and laughter. Each revelation deepens their connection. Their banter is gentle and teasing. He jokes about her slipper-chasing skills. She mocks his princely dramatic pauses. But underneath, there's a growing intimacy. They share small laughs over absurd childhood mishaps and find comfort in each other's honesty. By the time they return to the edge of the garden, Alexander's curiosity is fully piqued. "Cinderella," he murmurs, "I suspect there's much more to you than the rest of the ballroom realizes, and I'd very much like to find out all of it." Cinderella smiles, a mixture of mischief and warmth. "Well, Prince Alexander, you might be in for a surprise, or several." The night leaves them both breathless, not from the dance, but from the thrill of discovering someone whose wit, heart, and hidden depth mirror their own. In this private moment, amid roses and moonlight, the spark between them ignites, a promise of laughter, mischief, and love yet to come. The clock tower strikes 11, and Cinderella glances nervously at the gilded timepiece. 11. "Pip, we have less than an hour before the magic wears off," she exclaims. The tiny mouse squeaks, darting around her shoulder in panic. With a flick of the Fairy Godmother's wand, the golden carriage appears outside the palace. Cinderella climbs in, her heart racing. But no sooner has the carriage wheels begun to roll than a jolt shakes the vehicle. Mid-street, the pumpkin begins to wobble dangerously. "Oh no, not now," Cinderella cries, gripping the edge of the seat. Passers-by stop to gawk, thinking the spectacle is part of some grand performance. Children clap, believing the carriage is a trick from the palace entertainers. Street vendors shout in excitement, and a stray dog barks in bewildered applause. Meanwhile, her gown begins to falter. Sparkles fade, fabric folds, droop, and a seam threatens to unravel completely. Cinderella tugs at it desperately, muttering under her breath, "Why does magic always have the flair for drama?" She improvises, pinning and tucking with practiced dexterity while balancing precariously in the lopsided carriage. And then it happens. One glass slipper slips from her foot, rolling down the cobblestones. Cinderella gasps. Pip squeaks in alarm and scurries after it, narrowly dodging a surprised merchant carrying a stack of pies. The slipper lands at the feet of a curious baker, who examines it as if it were a rare jewel. At the palace steps, Prince Alexander watches in disbelief. The carriage suddenly transforms back into a pumpkin mid-street, rocking on its vine-like wheels. Cinderella leaps out, leaving one slipper behind, and dashes into the night with her gown barely clinging together. The townsfolk erupt into cheers and laughter, thinking it's an elaborate performance. One nobleman claps wildly, proclaiming, "Bravo!" a most daring act of acrobatics. Alexander, left holding the remaining slipper, is torn between amusement and frustration. "She's incredible," he mutters, brushing imaginary crumbs from his sleeve. He studies the delicate glass shoe, realizing it is his only clue to finding this clever, audacious young woman. Determination hardens in his eyes. "No matter what it takes, I'll find her." Meanwhile, Cinderella disappears into the streets, laughing breathlessly despite her near mishaps. Her humor and quick thinking save her at every turn. She leaps over a fountain, ducks under a swinging lantern, and navigates the cobblestones with the agility only a lifetime of chores and misadventures could provide. By the time she reaches the safety of a quiet alley, she collapses briefly against a wall, catching her breath. "Well, Pip," she says with a chuckle, "at least the prince now knows I can handle a little chaos." Pip squeaks in agreement, giving her a tiny approving nod. The night ends with Alexander scanning the streets, clutching the slipper tightly, while Cinderella disappears into the shadows, leaving a trail of laughter, mystery, and hope behind her. The stage is set for the famous slipper quest, and for their connection to grow amid a mix of comedy, tension, and magic. The next morning, the town buzzes with rumors about the mysterious girl who vanished at the ball. Prince Alexander, clutching the delicate glass slipper, marches through the streets with a determined expression. "I will find her," he declares to his aides, "no matter what it takes. That clever girl, she belongs at the palace, or at least in my life." Meanwhile, back at the manor, Victoria and Clarissa are already plotting. They glare at the slipper Alexander left behind, convinced that it will secure them the prince's heart. "Imagine it," Victoria sighs dreamily. "Me, Princess Victoria, adored by the prince. He'll never look at Cinderella again." Clarissa twirls her hair, adding, "And we'll be the envy of every lady in the kingdom. I simply cannot wait." Their plans quickly spiral into comic chaos. Victoria slips on a puddle of spilled perfume and lands face first in a laundry basket. Clarissa trips over a rolling footstool, sending a tower of hats crashing to the floor. Their attempts to perfectly present themselves for the prince only highlight their clumsiness and vanity. Cinderella, hidden in her room, observes quietly. With a wry smile, she murmurs, "They never learn, do they?" Pip squeaks in agreement, perched atop her shoulder. Instead of rushing, Cinderella uses her cleverness to prepare for Alexander's inevitable visit. She subtly adjusts the household, tidying the hallways, leaving little hints of her presence, and ensuring her stepsisters' antics won't ruin everything. The townsfolk, catching glimpses of the stepsisters' fumbling efforts, can't help but laugh. The baker, the blacksmith, and even a group of children secretly cheer for Cinderella's quiet ingenuity. "She's the clever one," whispers Mrs. Hemsley, shaking her head at the chaos. "That girl will win him, just wait." Alexander arrives at each house in turn, measuring the slipper against the stepsisters' feet. Victoria's toes strain painfully, the shoe refusing to fit. Clarissa nearly topples a chair in her desperate attempts to squeeze into it. Both pout and scowl, oblivious to the amusement of their own household staff. Finally, Alexander reaches Cinderella's door. The stepsisters gasp and step aside, sure he will reject Cinderella in favor of their perfect poise. But as Cinderella gracefully tries on the slipper, it fits perfectly, like it was made for her. Alexander's eyes light up with recognition, a mixture of awe and relief. "You're the girl from the ball," he says, his voice full of wonder. "The one who laughed at chandeliers and danced through disaster." Cinderella smiles, a mixture of humor and triumph. "I suppose my cleverness finally paid off." Pip squeaks in celebration, and the townsfolk peek from windows, grinning at her victory. The stepsisters, defeated and humiliated by their own comic failures, can only fume as Cinderella and Alexander share a meaningful glance, the first spark of their true connection shining through. The streets of the town are lively, filled with merchants calling out their wares, children darting between stalls, and the occasional stray dog causing minor chaos. Alexander strides through the crowd, the glass slipper clutched in his hand, frustration etched on his face. Each house he has visited so far has been a disappointment. Too large, too small, or too comically mismatched for the slipper. As he turns a corner in exasperation, he collides with a young woman kneeling beside a street performer, helping a wobbly puppet regain its balance. The puppet flops into the dust, and Alexander stumbles back, barely keeping his footing. "Oh, watch where you're—" The woman begins, then pauses, brushing dust from her skirt. "Wait, never mind. Are you hurt?" No, I'm fine," Alexander stammers, taken aback by her earnest concern and bright eyes. "I didn't expect anyone to be—" "Oh, never mind." The woman smiles faintly, returning her attention to the puppet. "Well, he's a tricky little fellow, isn't he?" Always falling at the worst possible moment, Alexander chuckles, the tension easing slightly. "Yes, tricky indeed." He pauses, trying to place her face, a strange feeling tugging at the corner of his mind. "You seem familiar. Have we met before?" The woman quirks an eyebrow, misinterpreting his tone. "Perhaps, though I meet many strange nobles in these streets. You must be one of them, looking for lost slippers or lost sense of direction." She gestures toward the slipper in his hand. Alexander blinks in surprise. "Lost slippers? Well, yes, actually. But that's not quite— Never mind." The woman laughs, a light, melodic sound that makes Alexander's heart skip. "You're awfully flustered for someone carrying a shoe." "Perhaps it's the shoe," he replies, smirking despite himself. "Or perhaps it's the person I've just collided with." Their banter continues, playful and teasing, as Alexander helps the street performer steady the puppet. The woman offers witty suggestions, correcting his awkward attempts with a smile that is equal parts patience and mischief. Sparks of recognition flicker in Alexander's eyes. Her hands, her laugh, the way she navigates chaos with cleverness and grace. It all feels familiar, yet he cannot be certain. "I don't suppose you'd happen to know anything about lost glass slippers?" he asks cautiously, watching her reaction. She laughs again, the sound light and musical. "Lost slippers? Oh, I'm afraid not. But I do know how to fix puppets, chase runaway chickens, and survive Stepsisters drama." Alexander's heart flutters. There's something more to this woman. Her wit, her kindness, her hidden strength. Even if he doesn't know her true identity, he is increasingly drawn to her. As the street performer finally steadies the puppet, he gives a bow. "Well done, both of you," Alexander says, genuine admiration in his tone. "I've never seen anyone manage chaos with such style." The woman blushes slightly, tugging a strand of hair behind her ear. Style is one thing, surviving it is another. They exchange a lingering look, the city's noise fading into the background. Though neither fully realizes it yet, fate has reunited them in the most unexpected of places. Alexander is captivated, and Cinderella, still incognito in her simple dress, is quietly delighted by the chance to interact with the prince as herself, not as the polished, magical figure of the ball. Back at the manor, Lady Marguerite, the ever-scheming stepmother, finally pieces together the truth. The golden carriage, the glass slipper, and the whispers in town all point to one inconvenient fact. Cinderella, her seemingly humble stepdaughter, is the mysterious girl who captured Prince Alexander's attention. Fuming, she hatches a plan. "That girl shall never claim what is not hers," she mutters, pacing the grand hallway. Victoria and Clarissa, eager to please, volunteer eagerly for missions to sabotage Cinderella's chance. One is tasked with spreading scandalous rumors, the other with creating obstacles in the streets to delay her. Chaos quickly ensues. Misplaced letters, spilled ink, and a supposedly accidental encounter with a goat in the marketplace. Meanwhile, Cinderella faces each challenge with ingenuity and humor. When the stepmother's messenger spreads rumors in the town square, Cinderella calmly approaches, charmingly correcting the stories with wit. "I may have danced through disaster," she says, bowing to an amused crowd. "But I assure you, no tales of me are quite as dramatic as they claim." Laughter spreads among the townsfolk, who now view her as clever, fearless, and delightfully witty. In another scene, a trap is set. A basket of rotten apples is tipped to fall as she passes a marketplace alley. Quick on her feet, Cinderella ducks, sending the apples harmlessly rolling toward a group of mischievous children. Ho squeal with delight. She winks at them. "A gift for your troublemaking skills." The children giggle and cheer, turning a potential disaster into a playful victory. Word of her cleverness and courage spreads. Even Alexander, continuing his search, begins to notice that the young woman he encountered with the puppet is far more than he first imagined. He sees her kindness in helping the townspeople, her wit in diffusing each chaotic situation, and her courage in facing obstacles with grace and humor. Finally, their paths cross again in the palace gardens, where Alexander confronts her, not with pomp, but with genuine admiration. "Cinderella," he says softly, "I've seen how clever, kind, and brave you truly are. You've handled chaos with humor and hearts with sincerity. I don't care about titles or appearances. You are the one I admire, the one I've been looking for." Cinderella blushes, but meets his gaze steadily. I never imagined anyone would notice the real me. Not the gowns, not the dances, but me. Alexander smiles, gently taking her hand. "I noticed." From the very beginning, even the townsfolk, peeking from behind gates and windows, cheer quietly, witnessing her hidden heart being recognized. The stepmother fumes, realizing her schemes have failed, while the stepsisters bicker over who caused the most embarrassment. By the end of the day, Cinderella has not only preserved her dignity, but revealed her true self to the world. Her courage, humor, and hidden heart have captured Alexander's admiration, and the promise of love that is genuine, not superficial. The town square buzzes with excitement as Alexander enacts his plan. A flashball designed to celebrate not only the royal search, but also the clever girl who captured his heart. Colorful banners flutter from lampposts, musicians tune their instruments, and townsfolk gather, curious about the spectacle. Cinderella arrives, cautious but curious, dressed simply yet elegantly, her natural charm radiating. Pip scurries along her shoulder, squeaking in excitement. Alexander appears on a raised platform, bowing theatrically. "Ladies and gentlemen, and mischievous mice," he begins with a playful grin. "Tonight we celebrate courage, wit, and the bravery of one remarkable young woman, Cinderella." The crowd murmurs, surprised by his personal declaration. Fireworks explode overhead in dazzling bursts, illuminating the night sky. Musicians strike up a lively tune, and townspeople begin dancing in the streets, their laughter echoing through the town. Victoria and Clarissa attempt to upstage Cinderella. Victoria twirls dramatically, only to trip over a banner and land in a conveniently placed haystack. Clarissa attempts an elaborate curtsy, but collides with a decorative fountain, sending water splashing across the cobblestones. Their attempts at elegance backfire spectacularly, leaving the crowd in fits of laughter. Meanwhile, Alexander descends the platform, moving towards Cinderella with exaggerated flair. Through every challenge, he announces, through every stumble and triumph, she has shown wit, courage, and a heart brimming with kindness. He kneels before her, taking her hand in his. Cinderella, I admire you for who you truly are. And I love you. Cinderella, her cheeks flushed and eyes sparkling, laughs softly, her hand clutching Pip briefly. You really know how to make an entrance, Your Highness. I had to, Alexander replies with a wink. After all, it's not every day a clever, brave, and spectacularly funny woman steals a prince's heart and leaves one slipper behind. The townspeople cheer, applauding the romance, humor, and triumphant spectacle. Even the stepsisters, soaked and tangled in decorations, can do nothing but fume, their schemes hilariously thwarted at every turn. Alexander pulls Cinderella gently into the center of the dancing crowd. Laughter, music, and the glow of fireworks surround them, blending comedy with romance. The prince's grand gesture is both a public declaration and a celebration of the qualities he truly admires: her heart, her humor, and her ingenuity. For Cinderella, it is a moment of pure joy, a confirmation that love can be both grand and playful, heartfelt and humorous. She laughs, spins, and leans into Alexander, knowing that the connection they share, built on authenticity, wit, and courage, is unshakable. After the jubilant flashball celebration, the crowd slowly disperses, leaving the palace gardens bathed in moonlight and the soft glow of lanterns. The air is filled with the scent of roses and the faint sparkle of fireworks lingering above. Cinderella and Alexander wander down a winding garden path, their hands intertwined. For the first time, the weight of expectation lifts, leaving only honesty, laughter, and the warmth of shared connection. You know, Cinderella says with a teasing grin, I think you might enjoy causing chaos as much as I do. Alexander chuckles, shaking his head. Only if it involves clever girls, runaway slippers, and a few dramatic fireworks. You've certainly made life unforgettable. They pause by a fountain where the water reflects the moonlight like scattered diamonds. Alexander gently brushes a stray lock of hair from her face. I admire you, Cinderella. Not just for your wit and bravery, but for your heart. You see the world differently, and you make it brighter for everyone around you. Cinderella blushes, smiling softly. And I admire you, Alexander. Not for the title or the ballrooms or the royal pomp, but for noticing the real me, for seeing a girl who's chaotic, messy, and entirely human. Alexander laughs, leaning closer. Entirely human? I find that perfect. They share a quiet, lingering kiss under the lantern light. Laughter and romance intertwine. A promise of love built on trust, honesty, and shared joy. Later, the stepsisters approach, tentatively, a little sheepish after their comedic failures and Alexander's public praise of Cinderella. Cinderella, Victoria begins, bowing awkwardly. We didn't mean to, well, we were foolish. Clarissa nods, adding, we're sorry for all the chaos. You really deserved all the happiness tonight. Cinderella laughs gently, extending a hand. Thank you. It wasn't easy watching your creative efforts unfold, but I forgive you. Truly. Everyone deserves a chance to learn and grow. The stepsisters grin, humbled and grateful, finally understanding the value of kindness, humility, and genuine effort over vanity and scheming. Alexander wraps an arm around Cinderella, smiling at the peaceful resolution. Together, he says softly, we'll have a life full of laughter, adventure, and perhaps a few more dramatic mishaps along the way. Cinderella nudges him playfully. I wouldn't have it any other way. Hand in hand, they walk through the moonlit gardens, their laughter echoing softly in the night. A perfect mix of romance, humor, and heart. The world seems brighter, more magical, and entirely theirs to explore. Cinderella and Alexander marry in a joyful, lively ceremony filled with music, dancing, and small comic mishaps that only make the day more memorable. Laughter, love, and charm fill every corner of the palace and town. The Stepsisters, now wiser and more humble, join in the celebration with good spirits. The townspeople cheer, knowing that true love has won, not just through grandeur, but through wit, courage, and the brilliance of a hidden heart finally revealed. Cinderella's life transforms from one of chores and quiet dreams to a world of laughter, romance, and adventure. Her hidden heart, now celebrated, cherished, and loved beyond measure.
The Stories book is a captivating collection of tales that traverse diverse genres and emotions, spanning the realms of fantasy, science fiction, romance, and mystery. Each narrative is a journey into the unexpected, weaving intricate plots and compelling characters. With a skillful blend of vivid imagery and thought-provoking themes, this anthology invites readers to explore the depths of imagination and discover the universal threads that connect us all. From heartwarming moments to spine. We hope you enjoyed these captivating video stories. Be sure to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content like this. Thanks for watching and keep spreading the video story.